Can you guys hear me without the microphone? I don't do well with the microphones. So my name's Brian Harris. If we haven't met, I'm the strange white guy that's been running around camp the last couple of days. Yeah, it happens. I'm from Biloxi, Mississippi, and if you don't know the states, I'm as far south as you can go without falling into the water on the other end. Swim hard enough, you can make it to Venezuela. So everybody's kind of asked me where I came from and how I got here. That story is too long for 10 minutes, but the short of it was I had a crisis of my faith on my own. Got discouraged a lot, and a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, said, well, why don't you think about the nicest, friendliest, courteous, most courteous people you've ever met. And if they're all kind of the same, then go look at where they come from and what they do. So about 20 years ago, I worked in a hospital in Washington, D.C., and all of our medical residents, all of our family practice residents were Punjabi and Sikh. I never really paid much attention to it at the time. I just knew they were always kind to me, and, you know, we talked and stuff. And so that's what happened. So that's about 6 years ago. And then I didn't really identify as a Sikh officially maybe until about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. Because if you don't grow up in the community, how do you know? You know, I wasn't born into it. I don't live around, there's no Punjabi community, there's no Gurdwara, there was nobody for me to really go talk to. So, Section 1 of the Rihat Mariata says this is what a Sikh is. I read it and went, cool, I'm a Sikh. So that's kind of where it all started. And like I said, there's really nobody where I live. So I just started hunting around on the internet, pulling up a website here, and then I found some basics of Sikhi videos and watched a couple of those and thought this is pretty awesome. And then Satpal Singh from Nanak Nam, started listening to some of the stuff. His first videos weren't actually videos, they were audio that were put on, and started listening to some of those. And so for 1.5 years, I had just studied and read, but I hadn't really felt any connection. And then Satpal Singhs did a series on the Mool Mantar and the explanation of the Mool Mantar. And by the time I got about halfway through his explanation of Ik, I was sick from that point. I understood it. It made sense. So, thought about coming last year, talked to an acquaintance of mine about coming up, and he says, yeah, you could go, but you may not be ready. I didn't understand it, so I didn't come. And then this year, I said, yeah, I'm going to go. Then I talked myself out of it. And then I just put on the post, I hope you guys have a great time. You know, I'm not going to make it. And I got the message back, well, why not? Well, then I had to try and answer to myself, why not? And I didn't have a reason other than maybe money. And, well, you can always make more money. Or you can go rob your wife's savings account. Worked for me. That's how I got here. I will tell you that the journey hasn't been easy, but I don't believe any path that's worth taking. I don't think you can find value in it without some work. it's hard to find value in something or anything unless you had to work for it. And I wasn't born into this, so I've had to work at it. And I find a lot of value in it for me personally, and the payoff for me on all of this coming up here, talking to everybody, having a good time, was yesterday evening when we went to Davan and I saw everybody doing kirtan. It was the first time I ever actually experienced that. I was sitting on the other side of the room, and so I was reading and then I was watching, and I was reading and I was watching, and the one thing I noticed was that everybody was happy or content, and everybody was engaged in the activity together. This is something I'm not accustomed to. We don't see this just about anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're talking about faith at work, that kind of connection that you can have with Waheguru in Sangit is something I'd never experienced before. And if you ask me today, with not being at the end of the camp, what the highlight of my camp has been so far, it was that moment when I saw that. Because that's not something I've been able to experience before. And so, you know, I want to thank you guys for nothing more than what you do anyways, because that seals the deal. So that's my brief thank you for having me and being so courteous. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
How do you feel now after your, not just the camp, but like through your journey from then to now? How do you feel regarding, I guess, just everything as a whole?
Well, chronologically, I was awesome until I got here, and I won't lie to you, it was pretty overwhelming. I wasn't sure where I was at, what I was doing. Wasn't sure how I was going to be received, and I had a little bit of a breakdown on the first day. That's okay. I am comforted that Toronto, and I know that there are many people here who come from many different gurdwaras in the area, but that you guys are willing to take me in. First Gurdwara I ever contacted told me don't bother, don't waste my time. So literally my first time in Gurdwara was when we brought the Guru in, and I was in for that. The very first time was here. And so all of my experiences with you guys have been extraordinarily positive. And it's helped me. So it's good. It's good. It's a culture shock. But once you realize that it's not really a culture shock, we're all here, then everything was good. Yes?
Do you think there are sufficient resources for someone like yourself coming from a non-Sikh, non-Punjabi background, trying to make their way into Sikhi and understand some of the concepts? Are there sufficient means to get into that point, or is there anything missing in that experience?
No, that's almost non-existent. There is a lot in English. There's a lot of work out there in English. But the presentation is being given from people of Punjabi background, and most of that is being delivered to people of a Punjabi background that just don't speak Punjabi, right? So they grow up in the culture, don't really speak the language. So part of my experience has actually been, okay, taking this piece, breaking it down, turning it into some sort of Western concept that I can grasp with my mind, then flipping it back so I can see it from the Sikh perspective. It's a process. So There's a couple of converts in the U.S. that we've started talking here recently, probably over the last 3 or 4 weeks especially, that we want to start working on being able to take and I use this example a couple times, take ik onkar, and somebody who just wants to know what that is. English translation means, the meaning in just about any English translation does not reflect the emotion and the spirituality that come with that. So how do we take that and put that into English terms that gives a very similar perspective so that they can relate to that and how we as Sikhs now perceive that? Even if they just want to study it and they're not looking to convert, they don't want to know, how do they understand what the concept of ik even is, or in ik onkar especially? You know, just say there is one God does not accurately reflect ik onkar. So that's the things that we're talking about, working on a little bit there, so that there's some more out there. Because it would have been easier for me if I hadn't had to go digest it, bring it back up, shift it around. But I got there. It just took me longer than some, I suppose. But yeah. So, anybody else? I know everybody's hungry. Yes, sir?
Any plans on moving?
Moving where?
Toronto.
They won't let me bring my guns. I'm not coming to Canada. I'm not coming to Canada. I like you guys a lot. Come visit me. No. I'm going to stay where I'm at. Fight the good fight from where I am. And maybe eventually we will have a Gurdwara where I live and stuff like that. But for now, I'll rely on you guys to keep me square, straighten me out, slap me in the head when I need it. I have obviously not taken Amrit. It is a plan, probably sooner than later, but I still have some life issues that I have to put away before I can do that. So.
Just a quick question. Like, how have other people taken to the change in you? Like maybe your family or people that you know. How has it been for them, or what? I don't know. How has that experience been for you as well too?
So my family found out about a month and a half ago. They took it well, in that we just don't talk about it. So it's not something we're gonna. It's probably not a family discussion, but my mom told me she still loved me, and my dad told me he was hungry and he was going to get something to eat. So I'm probably good. As far as my environment goes, the length of my beard and the fact that I started letting my hair grow, there are some pictures floating around of me within the last couple of years where I actually shaved my head. I've got a goatee that's only about that big. And that was cool, because in the military a lot of us were keeping, you know, close beards and stuff like that. And so, but once it started going, I started getting, I get questions like, what's up with the heavy bracelet? It makes too much noise. Did you buy a Harley? And that's always a famous one, because we do have guys that ride Harleys and they've always asked me to ride with them. I go, no, I ride sport bikes.
There's a Sikh motorcycle club.
There is a Sikh motorcycle club. Yeah, Germany just came out and said that Sikhs have to wear helmets. That was awesome. And otherwise, they just think I'm unkept right now, because they're not used to seeing me like this. You gotta realize the unit that I'm in now is a unit that I've been in for a lot of years. I was fortunate enough to spend 20 years with the same unit. Different facets of it, but the same unit. They were used to me being Master Sergeant, you know, and keeping them straight. And now a lot of those guys that I raised up as, youngins are now senior leadership, and they're walking into me going, really? So, you know, I told them I joined Duck Dynasty, and I've told them a lot of things. So, whatever it takes to just make them go back to work. Yeah, so it's interesting. I promised my wife that when I came up here I would put my, what she calls my Cajun redneck accent away, so hopefully you've understood everything I've said. Anybody else?
How's your wife receiving all of this?
My wife is in her own crisis of faith right now, so we'll see. With me, she's fine. She's all about it. She wear a turban, you want to whatever, I don't care, and she doesn't. She's very supportive of me. My 17-year-old, she's like, whatever, it's just Poppy. And my 6-year-old thinks I don't spend enough time going through my little Gurmukhi books and learning my Gurmukhi like I'm supposed to. She thinks it's awesome because I watch all the kids' videos on YouTube and I bring it up on the TV and she watches it with me. She knows more Gurmukhi than I do right now. She doesn't know why, but she knows more Gurmukhi than I do. So internally in the house, it's solid. There's no issues at all. If I want to go sit and do Simran, it's fine. But I keep all of my books in my bedroom because I just don't want to have that. I don't want to have an argument with my family, so my family doesn't go in my bedroom. So all of my books stay in my bedroom. But other than that, we talked about Baha'i Mardana, and day before yesterday, they're all running together. You know, we talk about being brave and we talk about holding true. That's kind of where I'm at, and that story kind of resonated with me a little bit because he did what he thought was right regardless of what the consequence may have been. And for me, this is right. And there are and have been consequences, but it's nothing compared to what I get. There's not enough anybody's going to do to me or make me feel bad enough to make me think that this isn't who I am and this isn't what I believe. So I've gotten a lot from this camp and I've learned a lot, and I appreciate all of you. So, anybody else? Yes, sir.
One more question. So you touched on briefly on when you started on this path, you found few resources to connect, but still from a Western perspective, it wasn't matching up to your experiences. What can Sikhs in North America, or this group, or anyone who's from this, coming up in a Canadian or American concept, what can we do better to provide outreach to people who are looking for spirituality or other processes, and there's Sikh spirituality or the Sikhism? What can we do better? What can we provide to help?
The resources that are available mostly are old translations. There's a lot of old translations. But the very last post I made on my blog talked about Punjabi versus Western culture, and I asked the question, did the Punjabi diaspora to the West think that there would be Westerners that would find this faith inside them once they realized it was here? My original answer is no. I don't think that was even something that came to mind. And that's not a criticism, it's just a reality of the situation. And I think I know in the US, and I know there's at least one in Canada, in Toronto, there's some Western converts, and we kind of talk to each other a little bit. And commonly said is that it's hard for us to remove the Punjabi cultural references from the faith. It's two different things. And from us, we have to attack it from a straight faith-based appearance because we can't relate to Punjabi culture. So finding that difference, separating the faith from the documentation, the culture and the faith, so that at least we can get to the faith and understand the beliefs, and then we can bring in the Punjabi cultural references that will make it more rich. But understanding it from the basic concept is where I think I found my biggest hurdle in the very beginning. Anybody else? Awesome.
Over here.
Oh, sorry.
So I know you talk about the plans forward. You were talking about your plans forward, right? Before. But if you could elaborate on something more, like I know you don't live in a community which has a lot of Sikh. So do you plan?
I don't live in a community that has any Sikhs. Not many, none.
Do you think that the same message you got, other people in your community or just like people in general, they should receive? And do you think you would want to help with that in the future?
That's what we're working on. So there's a young lady named Gurpreet Kaur. She's a convert out of Austin, Texas. She's got a blog and she's been published. She's got a book about her experience converting. So her and I, she's been talking to me every day since we've been here to make sure that everything's cool. You know, we're pretty close. So we do have plans. We've rebuilt her website to start including more resources for the convert. So as we find them, or as we have a way to put them together, then we can put them in one place. And then anybody who needs them or wants them can come to there and look at it. And basically it's just a matter of breaking it down to the faith base. And then the rich cultural piece can be brought in to that. And that's kind of what we're working on now. So it's going to be a long project, but yeah, I guess to better answer your question is that if you get somebody who walks into your Gurdwara, regardless of their cultural background, you know, say hello, let them know they're welcome, because that is not the norm for almost any Western convert to what I call a traditional Sikh environment. The difference there being the SDI or the 3HO. But a lot of us don't find that side attractive or appealing to us. Great for them. But we're looking more for the traditional Sikh values and the traditional Sikh approach. And we find a lot of times that, you know, we walk into a Gurdwara and we're kind of on our own until we've been there 4, 5, 6 times. And probably one of the biggest reasons why I never made a stronger attempt to attend one, other than the fact that the closest one to me, outside the one that told me don't bother, was 3 hours away. So
we a lot of times we plead ignorance to knowing how to connect with people by saying that we're a non-proselytizing faith, meaning that we don't go out to convert others. Sikhism doesn't convert others, and so we sometimes we don't go out to explain Sikhism because we're not, you know, we're happy enough to do what we're doing, but we're losing the benefit of the message of Guru Granth Sahib, which is for the entire world, by keeping it to ourselves and not learning ways to connect with others. So, for instance, when I'm a teacher, so I go out and try to. I came in the other day. You were sitting in the back. I came and shook hands with you. Just
yeah.
How many? Did you? The question would be: did you feel the same here, or are we good as Gur Sikhs to recognize there's a difference, and we go out and say, can we say hello? Can we ask how you're doing? Can we ask? Can we make you comfortable? Because the point Brian's made is very immense. That is the feeling of every non-Sikh coming to the Gurdwara, that people don't know how to connect. They don't know how to have interpersonal skills enough to say, oh, here's a person, let me say hello, because that's going to make them feel good. And then they might have questions. What Brian said was he felt awkward in a new place probably, or felt, I don't know if I belong here, what's going on here. A lot of us feel the same way as Gursikh. I know Navreet Singh came from England last year, camp, family camp. He says, well, I wasn't sure who's going to be here, if I'm going to receive with respect or not. And this is a Gursikh who knows how this works. And so if we can make each other feel comfortable, number one, and then if we see a person from difference, obviously a non-Sikh background, and not feel that we feel comfortable to go and say hello to them, then we're losing a lot of our interpersonal skills. We just come in our very humility and put our head down and say Fateh, and we don't really communicate to each other. We lose out that interpersonal skill and that communication piece where we can make people feel warm. And possibly I'm taking a lot from you and saying this is a gold mine, like we've got someone we can connect with and say, how do we improve ourselves?
Well, you know, it's been said a lot with, you're not proselytizing when somebody walks into your Gurdwara. They want to know. You know, you're not walking into a community, opening a Gurdwara, bringing people in, and then standing on the street handing out pamphlets and, you know, saying, "Come here, we're the only true." That's not it. You know, but when somebody does walk into your Gurdwara, it's okay. That's not proselytizing. That's spreading the message of truth. So, yeah, yes, sir.
So one comment on that. I don't want to say, like, I don't want it'd be long to say, but just to,
I'm getting a call that we have to start eating.
Okay.
If you can just thank her and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
just to keep it short, I think one thing is also in Canada versus the US. There's a big Sikh population here. You go to Toronto, you go to Brampton, just like many go to someone wants to come in, like this, like, you know, whether you're Caucasian, black, whatever, you go in. It's a little different. Here in the U.S., there's not much of a Sikh population there, and if it is, it's very sparse. It's very like East Coast, West Coast.
Right.
So like on West Coast, it's mostly Fresno or Yuba City or whatever. On the East Coast, probably New York or somewhere there. Yeah. So I think it hasn't really gotten there yet in the U.S. I think there's a little difference with that. There's a bunch of factors. So, but that's just something to keep in mind. But I'm not.
No. I understand. I understand completely.
I think I agree with you that, you know, as what he was saying, it's best to always just, you know.
We're getting ready to eat, and I don't want to cut this short, but I know we got to eat. But I will tell you something that I said this morning, and it was kind of funny because it's true. Up until basically here and one other gentleman, Sikhi for me had a British accent. You know, all of the YouTube videos and all of the Pacharks and all of, they're all British on YouTube. So the first time I heard Sikhi with a North American or American accent, I was like, oh yes. So, all right guys, thank you.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji Fateh.